Hey, so in this first hotspot texture maker video, we're going to be making this concrete hotspot here, which looks like this. So let's get started. I've created a brand new project using Epic's Arena Shooter template, and the only two plugins I have are the hotspot maker and the Scythe plugin. You don't have to have Scythe installed for this, but I would recommend it because then you can apply the hotspots to your geometry. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to get some textures from Fab. So I'm going to have you get these two Quixel textures. If you've been around for a while, you probably have these for free, but if you don't, just get any concrete texture from some free website and just follow it along. I'm going to have these links in the description of the video, so you'll be able to just go straight to them. So the first thing is you want the high quality version of these because that'll give you a 4K texture. Add that to your project. Go to the damaged concrete wall. Same thing, high quality, add to the project. We want 4K because we work in 4K by default with the hotspot maker. And once you have those, you can close out of Fab. And I guess we'll make folders first. So go to your content folder. I'm going to make a hotspots folder. And then we're going to be making a layout called hotspot B. The hotspot texture maker comes with 9 different layouts. So I'm going to leave a link to this in the description too. We're going to be working with layout B here. It's a very generic layout, and I wanted to make sure that the first hotspot that we make is something that you can use for nearly anything. So we're going to make some concrete blocks, and I'm going to make another folder in here and call it concrete blocks. And I think hotspot B. And then we want to go into our hotspot maker content. Then we want this texture graph. I'm going to hit Control C to copy it. And I'm going to throw that into the folder we just made. And I'm going to name this texture graph concrete blocks HSB. And I'm going to open that up. And I want to get the hotspot layout in here. So you need to go to your hotspot maker content layouts, hotspot B. And I'm going to get this here, drag that in, and call that the edge mask. Naming this is important. I'll show you why later. And I'm going to get the where and call that the where mask. And we need our textures, and that's going to be in Fab, Megascan, Surfaces, and we want the concrete wall textures. We want everything except for this one, the H, and the H stands for height map. We don't need that at all. So we're going to control click these 3 and drag them in. That's our base color and our normal. So we're going to name this to base color top, and this will make more sense in a moment. Normal top. I'm hitting F2 to rename these. ORM top. Okay, so just to explain kind of how this works is our wear mask here, the whites are going to be the top layer and the black is going to be the bottom layer and the gray is going to be the blend between the two. So we'll start out by taking our base color top and plugging that in there. Normal top, normal top. And the ORM is a little different. This is a split. We got to split this up because this is a packed texture. It has data in the R, G, and B values here. So if you've never seen this O stands for AO, and that's on the R. And then this R stands for roughness, it's on the G. And the M stands for metallic, and that's on B. So we're going to plug this into AO top. We're going to plug the G, which is the roughness, into roughness top. And the B into metallic top. And if you don't have Quixel assets like like we're using here, and you want to use something that doesn't have, say, metallic top or AO top or even roughness. For example, with AO top, you would just need to make a scalar, and you would plug this into the AO, and you would want the AO to be just 1. And then for metallic, you would do the same thing, but you would want metallic to be 0. So 0 metallic. And you would just plug that straight into the metallic. But since we have that, we don't need that. Now we're going to set up our wear mask. So we're going to plug this into the Hotspot blend mask here. And I'll actually show you what this looks like, because already it's starting to look a bit like a hotspot, just kind of black. And I need to set up my 3D preview settings. So we need to go to our normal here and make sure that this is set to normal map. And we can't set any of the other things because this is an ORM here. And we can't like select ORM because it'll just be weird. So I don't know if there's a way to break this out and kind of use it, but for now we'll just rely on the base color and the normal. So go back to 3D preview, and now we can see our normal and our base color preview. But there is a problem here. When we look at our base color top, this texture is 4K by 2K. And we want to output to a 4K by 4K. We want a square texture. So how do we get this to be square? We drag off here and we do a transform node. And we just plug this directly into base color top. And what we want to happen here, we need to change this first. We want this to output to 4K by 4K. And now we have a square texture. This is what it was before. This is what it is with the transform. And now that looks pretty good. It's 4K by 4K, but because it used to be 4K by 2K, so we need to repeat twice on the Y. And now it has a texture here and it repeats again right here. That way we don't have this big vertically stretched texture. And we have to do that for the normal top and the ORM top. So I'm going to select this, hit Control D and Control D again, and just put this in between here. Same with this normal top. And for now, we're just going to use one texture for our hotspot. So we're going to drag off our base color top and get a brightness contrast node. And I'm going to plug that into base color bottom. And already we see something happening. We're going to just brighten this up just a little bit, just a little lower contrast here. And now we see some stuff happening. Now this looks like a real hotspot. And for the normal bottom, we're just going to use the same normal. And we're just going to use the same AO bottom. But for roughness, we're going to use another brightness contrast. And we're going to brighten this up with a 0.8 contrast and a 0.2 brightness. And plug that into roughness bottom. And what that does is that makes the roughness just a little bit more rough. And then the metallic to the metallic bottom. And now we should be looking pretty good. But now we need an edge mask. And I'm going to plug this in here to the hotspot edge mask. Now we have very defined hotspot rectangles here. It's possibly too defined. So we're going to drag off and make a multiply off of edge color here. And we're going to do a scalar on the bottom for B. And we're going to take this bottom color here and plug it into A. And we haven't adjusted this yet, but let me zoom in here so you can see what's going to happen here. I'm going to change this scalar to 0.4 is probably good. And if you don't get an update, because sometimes this breaks, just disconnect this, alt click it, and then reconnect it. There you go. And now we're looking pretty good. So I'm going to save that. And I think we're done with our first initial hotspot that we want to look at. So I'm going to find where we created our hotspot folder here. I want them to show up here. When I export, the textures are going to show up here. So I'm going to take this folder. I'm going to highlight these, and this is the export path here. So I'm going to Control V in here, hit enter. And now when I hit export, they're all showing up right here. I'm going to save all so we don't lose our progress. Let me find the folder that I just made. So we need a base material now. So I'm going to right click the texture, create material, call this M hotspot base, I guess. Open this up. And we want the normal and the ORM in here as well. So the most important thing you need to do with this is you need to make sure, and this goes for if you're not using a simple material like I am here, if you have your own material, you have to make sure that you convert your base color to a parameter, and you need to name it something like base color or albedo or texture or something like that. Then Scythe can find it and knows the size of this texture. That's all it needs. And then these don't really matter, but we should name them, of course, because we're going to be using them. Convert it, call it normal. Convert this one, call it ORM. And whoops, yeah, I need to actually connect this properly. So R is AO, G is roughness, and B is metallic. And then we're gonna make a parameter for specular, default this to 0.5, just like it is now. Right click that and convert to parameter, call it specular. All right, save all this out because we should be done. I can close that now, and I'm gonna just make a material instance and call this MI concrete blocks HSB. And I think I'll just take this base and put it in the hotspots folder. And next up, we need to create a actual hotspot. So if you're using Scythe, this is what you have to do. I'm going to call this a hotspot data. This is just hotspot B. And we're going to put this in here. We're going to move this into the HSB folder and open that up. And you'll see that you already have your material here if you right clicked and created a hotspot off of it. Now I'm going to make all the hotspot patches for it. And I'll speed this up so you don't have to watch me do this. Okay, once you're done doing that, just save it, and that'll save it to the material. So now the material is connected to this hotspot asset. We can close that. And now it's time to actually test our hotspot. So I'm going to shift 6 to go into Scythe mode here. Go into our newly made concrete blocks folder and choose this here, and that'll make it the active material. And just going to make just a small something. Gonna do that. I think I'm gonna make just some subdivisions here. Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna do that. And then if I just select all and I hit this here, hotspot individual faces, or Shift F, should just work. And there you go, we have our hotspot down. But let's make something a little bit more interesting. Just select some random things here and hold Shift and drag up. And then Control A, Shift F to hotspot again, and then see what we're working with. I want like 2 on top of each other. Okay, so that's our first hotspot, but obviously it's not that great. It needs some work. So let's go into our texture graph, and I want to change my where because I can barely see it, and also this line here, this edge mask is extremely thick. First, I'm going to change this edge mask here. And how do we adjust this? We're going to do one of the most important nodes, which is levels, and plug this into here. And here's where we can actually change the thickness. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see what's going on. If I move this over here to the right, like you can see what's happening here. And now I made like a really thin line because I'm a fan of thinner lines when it comes to these edge masks. So I can actually export this and we can see it already because it exports right in here. I'm gonna try 0.6 and see how I feel about that. And then our wear mask here, we need to do the same thing. We need to grab levels for this, put it in here, and I gotta zoom out for this. See, like this is just too much stuff. I kind of want this to be like a very sharp fall off instead of this blend happening here. And we can do that. We can move over here. And you can already see it's starting to look good. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So now I'm going to save and export it out. Yeah, this is already looking better here with the wear here, but this is a little strange here. This looks thicker than I was expecting it to. Yeah, that is thick. This is probably going to look a little bit better. Even smaller. And everything turned black because this is pretty buggy. Let me try Disconnecting and reconnecting that. I'm going to assume that worked. So I'm going to export again. Ah, you know, I just realized it's the texel density. Because I was looking at this, I'm like, why does it look so low quality? It's because it wants 256 per meter. We're actually making 4K textures, so we want 1024 per 1 meter. And now, once I do this, now we're looking good. See, I even dare want this line now to be darker. So we go back in here, point for that, and let's just export it and see what we got. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I like that. And something else to note is you see how, pull up this instead, the actual texture. So this is meant just to talk about texel density a little bit more. This is a 4K texture, and if our texel density is 1024 per meter, that means that this is a meter, this is a meter, this one, and this one. So this block here can be a maximum of 2 by 2, 200 by 200 centimeters in Unreal, which would be, close to this. But that doesn't mean you can't make a 300 by 300 block and it won't look good. See, that still looks good, but once you start going kind of bigger, which, this one is a 500 by 500, you can start to see that it's starting to get a bit stretched because that one block is doing so much work and stretching. So that's just a little tangent on this specific layout and the sizes that it's supposed to be covering. But you can, if you're happy with like how this looks, then, do whatever you would like to do. Okay, so now that we're quite happy with our hotspot, we're actually going to even make it better. We're going to introduce the second texture. And we're going to do that by deleting this and this. And disconnecting anything from the bottom. Then we need to go and grab our second texture, which is the damaged concrete. Same deal, we want everything except for the height map. And this is the base color bottom. ORM bottom. Normal bottom. So looking at this one comes in at 4K by 4K, so we don't really need to resize it or anything like that. We can just take this and plug it straight into base color bottom. And already that looks pretty cool. And then we're also going to be plugging this into the edge color multiply node. And then this is going to go into normal bottom. And the same deal with this, we need to split this out with split channels. And we're just going to be using the same stuff, the AO bottom. G is roughness, so roughness bottom. B is metallic, metallic bottom, even though it has no metallic in it. It looks like we need to, looks like the edge color isn't working, so I'm going to disconnect this and plug it back in. Yeah, that looks correct now. All right, all that looks good. I'm going to export it and then see what we did. Yeah, look at that. Already that looks pretty cool. just to get a little bit more variety of what we're looking at in our example here, I'm going to shift control and push pull that in. Shift F to hotspot. Yeah, I'm very happy with this. One thing I do want to change is I'm noticing that bottom layer comes with a very extreme normal on it. Like this looks extremely rough. So I kind of want to make that chill out a bit. And we can do that with one of our functions in the hotspot maker. You go to the functions folder and we want the scale normal function and drag that in. And for the normal bottom, we're just going to connect that up. And we're going to change the normal intensity. So you can see like some of these bits here, this is kind of the problem that I'm running into. So if we do something like a 0.25 and then watch here, yeah, look at that. It really smooths that out with the normal. And I might just like that. And I guess while we're talking normals, I can kind of show you this. I can do a mass normal intensity. I'm going to do an extreme version with 1. And you can kind of see what's going on. This is the wear. This is based off of the wear mask. So, you know, when you have a lot more blending to it, it kind of blends in a bit more. But ours like is really harsh. So we wouldn't want anything like that. It looks pretty awful. So I'm gonna zero both these out because I don't want them. And then export that. And then these should smooth out now. Yeah, that looks quite a bit better to me. Yeah, we'll just I'll just have fun a little bit. Okay, that looks really good. I think our first hotspot is complete. And the last thing I want to talk about is, let's say you're working on a retro game and you are not at all anywhere near this textile density. You might want to something like 64 per 1 meter. How do you do that with this? There's two ways. Unreal has a way built in. You could just right click your textures and it's in reduce size. You click this, and if you're working on 64 per meter, you would want this to be 256 because that's 4 times your desired textile density. So you can do that. That's an option. But if you want to just do it for everything, every time you're working on these things, you would just go to your graph and you would set this output to be, you know, we want 256. And now when you export, now it looks like crap. But if you were to, so what would you want to do with that? I'm just going to walk you through this just in case you're kind of newer to Unreal Engine. You would just turn your filters to nearest and save that. And if that was a little complicated for you, you could just also just go into the texture itself and find the filter in here and set that to nearest and save it. And now these are looking real retro. I'm going to undo that because we're going to be making 4K textures in the rest of these tutorials. And in the next video, we're going to be making walls using 2 different hotspot layouts. And I just want to say real quick that this was a product that a texture artist named Nick Creasy and I were working on for a while now. And he recently got a job. So long story short is he ended up donating his portion of this product to me. And what that means is as nice as that is, he won't be able to work on it anymore, but I'll still be able to keep it up to date, and it'll also be a cheaper price than what we were planning on releasing it at. So you end up winning in the end. So I just want to acknowledge that and just say thank you to Nick.